Hello and welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the summit so far. It was like an action-packed day with so many presentations and talks. And I hope you, got some inspiration and some insights already. Since we had 4 tracks at the same time this time, I think, there was something for everybody. And now I am very happy and grateful to welcome Siddhant on stage. Siddhant is from India, and he tells us about the era of intelligent testing, transforming testers into skilled SDETs. Hi, Siddhant. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Michael. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Yeah, I really enjoy the event so far because, there are so many great speakers and so many really amazing presentations. So I can't wait to hear yours. So I will just introduce you real quick. You are an engineering manager, SDET at Newfold Digital, with over a decade of experience leading large cross-functional teams, shaping test automation best practices, and inspiring the global testing community as a speaker and thought leader. So I'm sure there are a lot of people who haven't seen you or who do not see you for the first time here. So we are really grateful that you're joining us on the stage of the Testing Summit this year. And I just have a few more comments. The first thing is, as you all know and might have heard a few times now, you can vote for the best speaker and the best presentation. So I hope you vote for Siddhant, and you can do that on the Testing Summit website. And we will also post the link at the end in the comments. And then I also want to encourage you to comment, because wherever you watch that, there is a comment section. So you can ask questions. And then at the end, we will have a Q&A part, and then Siddhant will answer your questions. So whatever you want to know, I'm sure that we can talk about it at the end of the presentation. Okay, I think that's enough about me. The stage is yours, Siddhant. Have a great presentation. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thanks a lot, Michael. All right, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone from wherever you are in the world. It's a pleasure, firstly, to be here as part of A4Q Testing Summit. A few years back, testers were seen as the final quality gatekeepers, test cases in spreadsheets, last-minute checks before the release. But the world changed. Agile, DevOps, CI/CD, everything came fast and sudden, and testers had to evolve or leave things behind. Today, we stand at that dawn of intelligent testing where AI, automation, and smart systems aren't just threats but allies. The tester's role is transforming into that of a skilled estate, part developer, part strategist, part innovator. This session isn't about fearing AI, it's about leveraging it, experimenting with it, future proofing it, and making sure that you are the best tester in this intelligent era. So let's dive into my topic for today, the era of intelligent testing, transforming testers into skilled estates. And let's explore how we can lead this change, not chase. So on that note, firstly, thanks, Michael, for introducing me. Just a quick background about myself. As most of you know, I'm Siddhant Wadhwani. I'm an engineering manager estate at Newfold Digital, and I have over a decade of professional work experience, currently managing around a team of 35 estates across geographies, and have had several contributions into the testing community, as you can see them listed below. I'm also an open source contributor to WordPress and also a LinkedIn top voice. And feel free to communicate with me over any of the social media channels listed at the bottom left of your screen. Enough talking about me. Let's deep dive into today's agenda. So you might ask, what exactly is this transformational journey? Or rather, how will I shape this entire session as part of, I'll just give you a quick high level agenda. So as most of you know, software testing was a checkpoint at the era of a software development lifecycle, a necessary evil that was catching bugs before customers did. But the world has constantly changed. We have seen that transformational change, the transformational impact, all the way from 1985 till present. The world that we live in today moves too fast for old rules. And in this digital first AI infused landscape, testing has also evolved. No longer are we those quality gatekeepers, rather, more of a catalyst for innovation and making sure that we provide confidence to businesses. So, today we officially step into that era of intelligent testing where quality isn't just a goal, it's embedded into our DNA for every sprint, story, and every release. So, exactly that is how I will start off with the introduction to the era of intelligent testing. Later, we move on to how we transform testers into multi skilled SDETs. Now, when I talk about this, it isn't just a job title upgrade, it's a transformational journey. Testers of the past were bug hunters. Whereas if now you talk about modern SDETs, which is software development engineers in test, it's more of like being a hybrid athlete, where you're partly a developer, partly a QA, and part of a DevOps engineering ecosystem. And don't forget, you have now generative AI as your playing tool mechanism. So that is exactly where I will also uncover how the role of AI has grown and what it demands today, how it is reshaping and redefining the career objectives, the career trajectories for those that are bold enough to hold and embrace it. Next, I will also deep dive into shift left testing, as most of you all would have already heard about it, but at the same time, also focusing on shift right testing, because that's where you introduce in sprint automation, you focus more around CI CD, and you're building faster and you're testing smarter. Next, we also talk about most important things, that is metrics that matter. And that's exactly where you should be measuring things what move the needle. So we all know that not all metrics are created equally, and what may work for one organization may not work for the other. So chasing vanity numbers like number of test cases executed or pass percentage is outdated. Instead, we'll zero in on actionable metrics that truly reflect product health, release readiness, and the user impact, user experience impact. Lastly, I will also walk you all through different stages of leadership styles and what helps best for you yourself, whether you're a leader, a manager, or an individual contributor. So, what is that transformational journey that will impact you and not make you remain static in this transformational journey? So now a lot of agenda, a lot of theory already spoken. Let's deep dive into some of the evolution of the software testing roles and how we have come this far. Once upon a time, in the bustling world of software development, a silent crisis was brewing. Code was being written faster than ever. Product releases were speeding up, and continuous delivery had become the new norm. But amidst all this innovation, one crucial team found its way gasping for air: the software testing team. Back then, for every five developers sprinting ahead, there was typically just one lone tester trying to catch up. The ideal ratio should have been 5 is to 2. But resource constraints, as most of us know, and an underestimation of QA's strategic importance meant testers were perennially outnumbered and more of considered as overheads when testing became ballooned up and inevitably production defects creeped in. Customer complaints mounted, the morale within the QA team members kept taking a hit, and releases became riskier than ever. And I'm sure all of us have already been through that phase, that journey. But like every good story, a transformation was on the horizon. So that's exactly the era of where quality assurance engineers that manually clicked through test cases gave way to automation engineers. They wielded Selenium scripts and test frameworks, yet even that wasn't enough. The industry needed a new kind of a hero, someone who could think like a developer, test like a critic, and integrate seamlessly into the CI/CD world. And that's exactly where we entered into the world of software development engineers in test. Not just a tester, but a coder, a collaborator, and a quality guardian. SDETs, as part of this role, blurred the lines between development and testing. They started contributing to production code, building customizable frameworks, optimizing the CI/CD pipelines, and baking quality right into the DNA of software life cycles, like making sure having quality gates within CI/CD pipelines and more so. With this, testing was no longer an afterthought. It was embedded right in the center. And then came another major leap. As most of us know, machine learning, AI driven testing tools, and smart automation platforms. QA teams now finally had the arsenal to match the speed of modern development. Predictive analytics flagged risky areas of the code much early on. Now we have autonomous test cases generation, which cuts down a lot of the manual effort that we spend. Visual validation tools that help catch the human eye what was missed early on. Integration with CI/CD tools make sure that we have quality gates which are automatic and uncompromising. And lastly, the results. Productivity soared, release cycles shrank, production defects dropped dramatically, and the most important, customer satisfaction reached newer heights. What once was a race between developers and testers, where developers ran the race alone, had become a synchronized relay with SDETs and QA teams handing off seamlessly, ensuring that every single feature crossed the finish line with quality intact. Today, testing isn't just about finding bugs, it's about enabling innovation, managing those risks, and delivering trust. This is that exact journey that we are going to talk about, from a manual QA driven process to an AI powered, developer focused, customer centric, automation first testing, which is transforming the IT industry. And guess what? The story is far from over. Intelligent testing is about moving beyond traditional automation. It involves the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning to predict defects, automate test case generation, and ensure that testing is integral parts of the DevOps quality culture, aligning with CI/CD practices and the development lifecycle in itself. The goal here is to make sure that we are testing smarter, faster, and being more reliable, which has overall led to SDETs becoming increasingly influential as they bridge the gap between agile testing and delivering quality. Thus, companies must also implement scalable test strategies as well as make sure that they are upskilling testers to increase the QA output and improve collaboration. That's how intelligent testing plays a vital role in defining certain best practices and guidelines that the team must adhere to, delivering features with optimum quality and agility. And definitely with agile testing and making it intelligent, the development cycles are now much shortened and the release process has also fastened. And if we look at some research studies, case studies, according to a very recent McKinsey study, agile teams are 27% more productive than those teams that follow the SDLC methodologies. Moreover, a survey by Atlassian suggests that more than 50% of software teams are already utilizing continuous integration and delivery. And about 32% of such teams have plans to move to CI/CD. Also, more than 50% of organizations push changes to production daily. By now, I'm sure you would have realized that the very first step towards this entire transformational journey in the era of intelligent testing actually starts with you. So, talking about the transformational journey where we evolve testers into full stack SDETs, let's be honest, the landscape of software quality has changed dramatically. Gone are those days when testers just validated UI and logged bugs. Today, organizations really need SDETs who are skilled professionals who not only test but also architect, develop, and automate solutions that make testing smarter, reliable, and scalable. And most of you are already aware about the basic difference between a tester and an SDET. So I'll skip through all that bookish definitions and focus on something that's more meaningful. Why? Why should we even bother with this transformation? What's the real pain point here? If I asked you, what's the one bottleneck in your current testing setup? Many would say repetitive, time consuming manual task. Lack of deep technical knowledge in code reviews, CI/CD, and design discussions. And last but not the least, releases due to inefficient testing processes. So, how can an SDET fill that or bridge that gap? Well, as soon as an SDET steps in, he or she tries to bridge the gap between developers and testers, where they don't just find bugs, they help prevent them from happening. They automate, optimize, review the code, and also collaborate on the architecture and making sure that quality is built into every single stage of the software development and software testing life cycles. But can a tester just grab an ISTQB certificate and call themselves an SDET? Let's get this straight. Certifications are great for foundation level knowledge, but that alone won't cut into a modern engineering environment. Becoming an SDET is about mastering coding skills, understanding design patterns, API testing, CI/CD pipelines, non-functional areas, and of course much more. Contributing to automation frameworks, understanding what are microservices, micro front ends, testing in cloud-based environments, and of course leveraging or making use of generative AI assisted test automation. It's a complete mindset shift from a reactive based approach to more of a proactive based engineering. And that's exactly how I myself worked with my team on this transformational journey for several years. Transforming from testers to skilled SDETs, that transition journey where we see the role of a tester now extends beyond simply executing test cases to including coding skills, DevOps knowledge, and involvement in CI/CD pipelines. This transition into an SDET role requires not just new skills, but also a shift towards quality ownership. The strategy that I followed, and it worked wonders, was shifting from a reactive based approach to a cognitive based approach. And trust me, it wasn't an overnight miracle. Organizations can also follow these 6 stages to evolve testers into SDETs. If I talk about reactive approach, that was a phase long back when we had no dedicated testing teams. Developers used to know it all, handle it all, whether it's testing with minimal tools and processes. Then came the proactive approach, where it was formation of a small testing team with coding standards, test automation, environments where they were streamlined, and much more. Finally, we moved to a strategic approach where we started using extensive tools and frameworks with a focus of test management and incident analysis. Later came the phase of shift left testing and in sprint automation. That's exactly where we leveraged UI and API testing, non-functional areas, focus on test-driven development, and the skilled SDETs were developed, upskilled, and born. Finally, we moved on to the phase of DevOps approach where we had adoption of continuous testing, CI/CD, with a focus on doctored tests, debugging logs, and making sure that we are shifting right as well with performance monitoring and log debugging. Lastly, we move to the final phase of cognitive approach by making sure we are embracing non-functional areas of testing, low code, no code, service virtualization, generative AI, and beyond. Moreover, to transform your testers into skilled SDETs, start by defining an ideal test strategy that is tailored to your application type, the tech stack that you use, project requirements, team size, and of course the business needs. Because in modern frameworks like whether you're using React, Angular, or Ember.js, UI tests don't have to be the top tier of your test pyramid. You can effectively unit test your UI components in these frameworks. Adopt the test pyramid approach. Focus on writing numerous small, fast unit tests and some coarse grained tests and use high level end to end test. that focus more on customer journeys and high revenue. This ensures a robust, fast, and maintainable test suite. So, how do you drive this transformation? Well, I would just narrow it down to focus on some key principles like skill gap analysis. Map your current skills versus desired SDETs capabilities. Personalized learning journeys. Not everyone learns in the same way. So identify who are your fast learners, leverage them on some of your latest POCs based on the technology trends, and share the same within your testing teams. Mix of workshops, coding boot camps, peer code reviews, and hackathons. These are some ways you can leverage the gap. You can also focus on project based learning. No better way to upskill your team by focusing and solving real world problems. You should make sure that you're focusing maybe 10% of the overall efforts that you spent in a year on continuous learning culture, where you're fostering curiosity and self learning with access to modern tools, AI driven test solutions, and cloud based platforms. And lastly, be attentive, attend webinars like these, conferences, or mentorship programs where you can pair with aspiring SDETs or experienced engineers for guided hands on experience. And yes, it's a journey, not a sprint. You need to plan it out in phases. Let me not focus more on the ideal test pyramid because I'm sure most of you now are very much familiar. And of course, with the previous slide, I gave you all a little depth into what is expected from this transformational journey. So rather, let me focus more on the third step, the most important, which is making sure you're setting up a quality center or a testing center of excellence. Now, when I talk about a testing center of excellence, it is basically a strategic framework that mostly circles around people, process, tools, KPIs, and innovation. It plays a key role for any organization to shift its focus to a quality first approach. And that's why, if you just read the main key points of every single column, you will realize it is your asset, which basically stands for analyze, standardize, synergize, expand, and track. So, here, if I just had to quickly summarize how a testing center of excellence would add the base value for any organization, the steps involved in setting a test center of excellence for an organization would mostly circle around analyzing the business requirements, the vision, and the priorities, as well as making sure that you do some SWOT analysis for identifying the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Next, you move towards standardizing processes, best practices, guidelines, and defining KPIs for measuring performance. Third, you focus on synergizing, where now you bring all your teams together to align with the business goals and focus more on a quality first approach. Fourth, expand. Here is where you share that knowledge, share those learnings across other business units to improvise on the strategies and expand accordingly. Last but not the least, track. That's where you create your dashboards to make sure that you're tracking metrics like whether it's the return on investment, or you can use CMMI, Kokomo, or various other models for this regard. Certainly, there are challenges that most organizations face when they are initially setting up a test center of excellence, where it could be significant investment in time, effort, and money. It can also be an uphill battle to obtain organizational commitment. There could be difficulties associated with provisioning the right set of skills, nor overcoming the lack of communication. And lastly, setting the direction and prioritizing the effort and tasks that it takes for implementing a test center of excellence. All of this could really be challenging. But trust me, if I put stats, because most of the business leaders would like to hear numbers, organizations that have adopted a test center of excellence have reported that they were able to achieve 50 to 70% level of automation in testing with an average of 30% reduction in their test cycles and also reduced defect leakage of around 2%. So I think these metrics matter a lot and it's worth your while to set up a test center of excellence. But now let me quickly deep dive into the transformational testing era with generative AI. And I just want to throw some light on how we got here. As most of you know, we started with testing flows manually, clicking through UIs, hoping for the best. Then came simple scripts, and it evolved into a far-fetched, solid, robust automation frameworks like Robot Framework or many more. And that made a lot of our lives easier. Remember the days when writing one automated test felt like a career highlight. Now, if you look at the current setup that we have built CI/CD pipelines that feel like they have a personality. Automation has evolved right since then, and so much. And when we look at the last 2 years, it's been all about generative AI and how we can integrate, embrace, and experiment in the fields of testing and automation. So let us understand a little bit about what exactly is generative AI. Well, generative AI is a powerful technology which enables computers to create human like content, including text, images, music, code, etc. It learns from vast datasets to produce outcome that ranges from realistic to imaginative. It's more of now from a discriminative, descriptive era to a generative era, and hence the name. So beyond being a tool, it's more of like a creative collaborator, which is revolutionizing a lot of fields, especially problem solving and testing for that matter, opening new frontiers for innovation across various fields. And I generally relate this topic with the Tesla analogy. This is, well, the favorite part of my slide. So, all eyes here. AI powered test automation needs human oversight. Just imagine if you were cruising down the highway in a Tesla, letting your car handle most of the driving with its advanced self driving capabilities. You sit back, feeling confident in its AI powered system, which detects lanes, obstacles, and even predicts potential hazards. It feels almost like magic until suddenly the unexpected happens. A new roadblock appears. Maybe there's overnight construction work that wasn't there a few hours ago. Your Tesla, despite all its sensors and AI processing power, it wasn't pre trained for this specific scenario. It might slam on the brakes abruptly, struggle to reroute efficiently, or in some cases, require you to take over the steering wheel. That's when you realize this is not full autopilot. It's just an advanced cruise control system. And that's exactly where we stand today with AI powered test automation. Generative AI, large language models, and intelligent automation frameworks like whether you call Robot Framework, Selenium, or Copilot powered test generators are revolutionizing the way we test software. They can self heal test cases, auto generate scripts, predict failures, and optimize test execution, just like Tesla's system optimizes your driving experience. But just like a Tesla needs human oversight, AI in test automation cannot operate in a vacuum. So let us look at some key use cases that I would like to bring across. But just remember one thing: generative AI in software testing can reduce manual efforts by automatically generating test cases, identifying issues, and optimizing your code, which will definitely lead to faster development cycles and more reliable software. When you integrate AI into your testing processes, it can bring significant benefits, but it's important to approach it in the right way to maximize those benefits. So, yes, there are a lot of best practices which I'll talk about, which is making sure that you start small and focus on one or two use cases at first to make sure that it is demonstrating the value that you require. You also ensure that the data that is used for training and testing these AI models is of the highest quality, representative of the real world scenarios, and the accuracy is also looked at. Use a test automation framework that incorporates AI experiments into its testing process. Make sure that you're developing a strong feedback loop to continuously improve the AI models and, of course, the overall testing process. Last but not the least, monitor the performance of each of these AI models and experiments regularly. to ensure that it is delivering the expected results. And last but not the least, make sure you're using ethically. Of course, when I talk about these 10 top 10 use cases of generative AI, it could vary from all the way from test case generation, whether it's manual or automated, intelligent test data generation, test script being enhanced or optimized, automated bug detection, predictive test execution optimization, AI driven performance testing, automated test result analysis, AI in continuous integration, document generation through AI, and last but not the least, real time communication and collaboration, where you integrate AI with your specific tools. But if I had to talk about each of these separately and where it fits in the shift left and shift right methodology, shift left, as most of you know, is a crucial strategy for any organization looking to enhance its testing processes. So if you talk about automated test case generation, intelligent test data generation, code reviews through AI, all of this can be focused on the shift left era. And when we focus on the shift right, which is more around debugging logs, making sure that you have monitoring in place, of course, that's where you can leverage AI in those areas. And it's not like you don't focus at the center at all. That's where you can also have quality gates in place and leverage AI there. So again, most of you may have a somewhat similar or a different CI/CD implementation in place. I haven't fitted generative AI in any specific area, but this is where you must ensure that you have proper quality checks directly embedded within your development cycle. And by making sure that you automate tests as soon as possible within the early phases, we are ensuring that the quality is also maintained throughout the sprint. With this approach, you can definitely ensure that the risk of defects slipping through later stages will ultimately lead into a much more robust product. And with generative AI integrated right into the center, I think you have already done wonders. So when we talk about some key metrics that I generally would recommend, you can feel free to use what best suits based on your application needs, the customer, or several other areas. I mean, most of the people would here talk about defect leakage and tons of other metrics, but I would generally categorize these into focusing on testing, automation, customer, and the DORA metrics. And I won't deep dive into each of these metrics because I'm sure we have a smart audience. And if anyone wants to look for more details, we can connect separately. But this is something that generally would help you transform from testers into smart, skilled SDETs. And during this entire transformational journey, we did a lot of common challenges. I'm sure you would also do the same. So I have highlighted 6 major challenges which I faced in my current role, which many of you can also relate. Firstly, it was a mindset change. The challenge here was transforming from an individual contributor more into a managerial role. The opportunity that I saw was embracing delegation, gaining the time for strategic involvement, and recognizing the team's success being your success. Second, context switching. The challenge here was handling multiple projects and remote work. Especially that we have seen this COVID era, a lot of things have evolved. So the opportunity was collaborating closely with the team, making sure that there were scheduled regular check-ins, and mastering the time management techniques like making use of Pomodoro as one of the means. Third, sharing constructive feedback. The challenge again is how do you deliver negative feedback? Well, the opportunity is you can make use of methods like SBI, and it's not State Bank of India, for those of you who know. It's situation, behavior, and impact, or direct peer-to-peer feedback for clarity and impact. Fourth, and I believe most of you all also face this, is building team trust. You can overcome the imposter syndrome, making sure that you're trusting yourself, trusting the team, and delegating by avoiding micromanagement and making sure that you're listening actively and taking responsibility for failures. Fifth, managing stakeholders effectively. Here, the challenge is making sure that you're bridging communication gaps. I'm sure, irrespective of the best team in the world, there are always gaps at a communication level, irrespective of the teams. So the opportunity is predict those delays, make sure that you're communicating, over communicating openly, and you're refining your processes over time. The last and the most challenging piece, which I generally see in the field of automation, but of course it happens in any specific role, which is reinventing the wheel over and again. The challenge is adapting to reorganization or exploring new ideas. Well, the opportunity is always you can always assign a small team or a couple of individuals to assess those changes or the wheel that's being reinvented, to see and identify the value and plan those transitions accordingly. So you can also focus, in fact, on the image on side, which is more of radical candor, where you praise in public and criticize in public, in private. But like when we spoke about the testing center of excellence, I also told you we should do a SWOT analysis, and that's something what we did to know where we are today. So when we had to look at the SWOT analysis, we also looked at what are our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths, of course. Now we have built a skilled team. We have improved our stakeholder collaboration and communication. We have good existing processes outlined, and we have automation frameworks that are solid. Where are the weaknesses? Limited automation coverage, resource constraints, legacy systems, documentation gaps. Opportunities, of course, with upgrades and trends, you have AI and ML integration, tools upgrade, skills enhancement, process optimizations. And lastly, threats. Of course, budget constraints, competitive landscape, technological changes, and market expectations. All of this is self explanatory. I believe most of you all have been through each of these four quadrants. But where can you head from here? So that's where you can come up with some smart goals, and something that I also prepared, just as a basic line. Of course, you all can enhance it more based on your specific needs, but you can be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound with your vision and goals that you set. So assume like by December 2025, crown our quality center of excellence as a leader in quality software through cutting edge testing practices, focusing on shift left testing and in sprint automation. Automate 70% of tests across all layers of the test pyramid, increase the defect detection rate through automation by 10%, and improve the CSAT score, solidifying customer delight. So now it's measurable. Ambitious yet achievable, fueled by phased execution and continuous learning. Realistic when you're aligning with the business goals, enhancing the market edge, and driving long term success. And time bound, like we have already set a goal that by end of year we plan to achieve these targets. But again, having a goal in place, doing your SWOT analysis is just the tip of the iceberg. What's your ideal strategy in the way you would approach these problems? So what's next? Of course, teamwork is the main piece, but how would you split it into process, customer driven, and team driven? So with process, let's say focus more on building your shift left testing and in sprint automation. When it comes to customers, make sure that everything that you're building is customer centric and you focus on quality. And last but not the least, team, where you're making sure that your team is not left behind. You're innovating, you're making sure that there's continuous learning and there's quality that's built in right into its culture. And yeah, I have again listed out some patterns, some areas that you can focus on each of these. I won't deep dive into that. Again, we have a smart audience here. But let me just put up a quote by Walter Chrysler. Some people create their own opportunities, others go where opportunities are the greatest, and the rest fail to recognize opportunities even when they are face to face with it. So, when I talked about adapting leadership styles for continuous learning, what is it that you as managers or you as individual contributors can do? Well, being a manager myself, the way I would focus on upskilling my testing team is more of a crucial way to unlearn the legacy methods and adopt more of practical, modern, developmental models. The QA role has evolved significantly over the last decade, yet 70% of the testers seek the right courses for skill enhancement driven by better pay, job security, respect, and career growth. So, here I would recommend considering the 70-20-10 model, which mainly focuses on 70% learning from the on the job experience, 20% is more from peer networking, and the remaining 10% is through formal training sessions. The latter 10%, which I speak about, is more around utilizing platforms like whether it's LinkedIn Learning, Udemy, or communities like BrowserStack, TestTribe, webinars, and conferences like this, and many more to upskill your knowledge. Building an effective testing team requires recognizing your strengths and weaknesses. Tools like the Gallup Clifton's strength and weakness assessment model can help you in this regard, where it allows you for constructive feedback, open communication, and defining smart goals. And of course, you need to start delegating and trusting your team rather than relying more on micromanagement. Finally, foster team cohesion through bonding activities, whether it's a buddy program or you're meeting through on-sites and off-sites, making sure that you're having regular one-on-ones with your individuals, and you're also sharing business updates on a timely basis. I generally don't talk about this, but most managers also seem to have different varying leadership styles. So, how do you adapt to some of these? Finally, we have come to the final and one of the most important topic of today's session. This is extremely important for all those leads, principal architects, managers, or above, as well as those individual contributors who aspire to transition into the leadership or management path someday. How to adapt to a leadership style that you could fit in any situation. As a leader, you may want to lead from the front in a barricade storming style, or hold back and hear what the team has to say, or even withdraw entirely from view and work unseen. All such options are possible as long as it builds the team, motivates the individuals, and gets the result. Well, if I talk about the top 10 leadership styles, it's more around being a coach, a visionary, a servant leader, an autocratic, or you can say a laissez faire or handoffs, where you're more into delegatory and autocratic, being a democratic, a pace setter, being in that transactional, traditional behavior, bureaucrat, or a transformational leader. But don't you think, or don't doesn't this seem quite a bit to digest? So that's why I have grouped all of this into 6 leadership traits with a symbolic representation. Let's look at each of these and understand what they signify. When we look at the first one, which is star, it's more around focusing on strengths, teamwork, alignment, and results. That's how you are a star, you're a visionary, or you're an all rounder. A person, a team lead, a manager, or an individual contributor who falls within this kind of a leadership style is someone who is the best suited for any job. But again, it's not necessary that you may have just one leadership style, you can have multiple. So let's look at some of the others where you're more of a guide, where it comes to being like you can compare it with parents, more of a servant leader, where you're protective and nurturing. You're making sure that you're holding your team every single step of the way. On the other hand, you have a tiger who is more aggressive and fierce. So more result driven, more result oriented, and sees value in delivering. Then you have a geese. So you can think of it more of like a distributed leadership. When the leading goose gets tired, it generally swaps places from the behind and make sure that while it has swapped places, it's recharging itself to take the next role. When we talk about diamond, it's more of transformational challenging, because only when you heat it and you basically get the best bright and the best shape. So it's more of like cutting edge coaching, assessment, and training that shapes you into being the best possible leader. And last but not the least, the queen bee, where it's more around transactional performance oriented, but slightly different from the tiger based approach where you're maintaining the team balance and your focus is again on performance. So I leave you all with a very nice quote by Daniel Goleman, who is an author of the New York Times. The best leaders don't know just one leadership style. They are skilled at several and have the flexibility to switch between styles as the circumstances dictate. And with this, I'd like to conclude my today's session on the era of intelligent testing, transforming testers into skill testeds. So thank you, one and all. Feel free to scan my badge and let's connect over any social media platform. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. If you want to, you can leave that a little bit longer on the screen just to so people have the chance to scan that. So, but thank you very much for your presentation. I think that gave a very detailed overview. There's not that much time left for questions, but yeah, maybe we just keep that for a while there so that people can contact you. Yeah, there's not that much time left. We are almost at the end, but maybe we have time for at least one question. Let me see. Here, with AI and Gen AI tools assisting in automation and test generation, do you think the role of an SDET will become obsolete?
Okay, fantastic and very relevant in 2025 and beyond. Here's the thing: AI, like I mentioned earlier, is not a tool, not a replacement. It's more of like an assistive technology, and it will help you get there where it took you a lot of time. So it will handle your repetitive pattern-based behaviors like a specific task, or if you have a specific code, it can generate boilerplates and also suggest or generate test cases for you. But in today's era, you still need skilled estates. Again, we don't have a vision into the future, but you definitely need skilled estates for making sure that you're designing smart automation architectures, reviewing, optimizing, and contextualizing AI generated tests, and making sure that all of this is integrated within you, where you can take those critical decisions where human context matters. So, yeah, just to summarize and quickly answer your question, Michael, AI is an opportunity for SDETs to evolve into more of an AI augmented test engineer role, where you master more of the cognitive based approach with tools and engineering skills. So definitely it is paving the way to the future, but the role of SDETs is definitely going to lead the way and it's not going to be redundant.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you for this answer. Maybe one last question, then we really need to wrap things up. What are some of the biggest mistakes organizations make while trying transitioning their QA teams into SDETs?
Okay, that's another great one. So I would just categorize these into the three biggest mistakes I've generally seen. And again, it could vary, but this is something that I've always seen. The first one is one size fits all. Not everyone starts from the same skill level or learning style. So that's why I shared different leadership styles, different learning techniques, which you need to tailor and have personalized growth plans for your team. Second, here you focus more only around tools where you're ignoring the mindset. So being an SDET, it isn't just about knowing whether it's Selenium, Cypress, or XYZ framework or tool. It's about developing a quality engineering mindset, one that thinks like a developer, a tester, and making sure that it's delivering for a customer with utmost quality. And last but not the least, skipping through the cultural alignment, where the focus is more around tech transformation without culture. Just like if you relate to the Tesla's analogy I spoke about, you need a culture of continuous learning, code ownership, and cross functional collaboration for this to stick. So, fix these, and your transformational journey is already 70% smoother.
Okay, thank you that you could answer some of the questions. Let me see. Yeah, I think unfortunately, yeah, we don't really have time for another one. But yeah, I thank you so much for your presentation. I'm sure, I mean, there was the QR code, so people can contact you afterwards if there are more questions. So yeah, thank you very much for all the knowledge you shared, and for basically the passion that you shared with us. Thank you so much. I want to comment again, please vote on the website so that you can share your opinion with us and show us that you loved the presentation of Siddhant as much as I did. And I think that it just leaves me to say thank you so much, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the summit.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks, Mike. Thanks a lot. See you.
Software testers. Move beyond theory and master testing with the AI-powered ISTQB add-on practical tester by A4Q program. The ISTQB add-on practical tester by A4Q equips you with the theoretical skills and practical competence to truly excel. Learn how to apply black box testing like a pro. Estimate accurately, write flawless defect reports, and catch issues early. The ISTQB add-on practical tester by A4Q complements your ISTQB certification by turning knowledge into powerful action. Visit our websites and find out more information.